Subsequently, after Musk restricted Substack's links for reasons that are related to this matter, plaintiff's subscription growth slowed even more, leading to a net financial loss. The book's title and subtitle, Owned, How Tech Billionaires on the Right Bought the Loudest Voices on the Left, stated that they were owned and bought by billionaires. See, this is the problem. It's literal. You are saying that he was literally bought and then owned as a human, as a form of property, when he was not. He was not literally bought. Lawsuit. Sue. Silence. How dare you do that? If you didn't know, Matt Taibbi has had a very wild history on the internet. He was once the darling child of the left, talking about how much he cared about free speech, writing articles about how neocons bad, imperialism bad, the far right bad, you know, calling Trump a lunatic, stuff like that. He used to be. And then eventually he started getting really tired of all the cancel culture and the SJWs and the woke. And Matt Taibbi started doing more and more Substack articles about how, you know, the left has lost its way and they're all too censorious because they want to judge you for the things you say or the words or the slurs or all that kind of stuff. But I think the big turning point for Matt Taibbi more than anything was when he basically was a PR cheerleader for Elon Musk. Allegedly. I got to choose my words carefully. I don't want to be the next to be sued. But if you didn't know, Matt Taibbi was the first person to release the Twitter files. And for anyone who's still not aware, you can go watch some more news video on the Twitter files. It'll go into way more detail than I can. But Matt Taibbi effectively got all these behind the scenes emails, communications, and leaks that he then put into a narrative that he reported on, wrote a story, and then published exclusively on Twitter. And he did it in a series of tweets. And so you, in order to read the totality of Matt Taibbi's, Twitter article, whatever you want to call it, you would have to go through each one of the tweets and subsequent and read them and see what was going on. I did. I wouldn't recommend it because it is really, I mean, if nothing else, it's kind of funny. You can really tell just how grandiose he took everything. I don't know if he had like, you know, a fine glass of Chardonnay in the corner and, was huffing on a pack of Camels or whatever it was and just feeling like, oh man, this is journalism. But it really was a man who was basically trying to do his best to push a narrative that Elon Musk wanted, because Elon Musk ultimately was the editor of the Twitter files and how they would be released, and wanted to push a narrative that in fact there had been a collaboration at the highest levels between the Democrats, Joe Biden, and the censorious Twitter against the right. And so Twitter back in the day, as the right used to like to say, was a tool of censorship that was basically being weaponized by libs and Democrats in order to silence the speech of the right because they were the ones who hated free speech. And that was the idea. Now, the reason why the Twitter files and the first one is specifically by Matt Taibbi are so funny is because when he put them out there, the timeline of everything wasn't totally adding up. Like, he was trying to act as outraged as he could, right? Just being like, this was an actual request that was put in by the DNC in order to silence the story about Hunter Biden. They actually requested that Hunter Biden's nude photos not be published. Can you believe that? And I was like, well, the site did have policies against publishing revenge porn, and that was a request made on the behalf of, the DNC, and then they honored that request. There was also requests made on the behalf of the RNC and Trump officials, as well as the Donald Trump administration, saying, hey, by the way, can you take X, Y, or Z down? And they also complied. There were elements of both. Trump was in power at the time. That's the biggest difference. So for Matt Taibbi's Twitter files as an expose of how Brandon, the Democrats, all of them were basically in cahoots with big tech to censor the right, it turns out he was actually publishing the files of a period in history where the GOP were in control of the presidency. And that was basically, I thought, all you were going to experience with Matt Taibbi. Then it got real embarrassing. You see, Matt Taibbi got a lot of love from the right for publishing the Twitter files. His numbers, his metrics on Twitter were extraordinary. He was just exploding online. He could make one tweet and he would get 30,000, 50,000, 100,000 likes. It was wild. Like, the amount of power he must have just had out of nowhere. Suddenly, like, I am a social media god. Look at this. I can call out any of my detractors. If you say that I'm like selling out, or I'm now just basically doing the betting of a billionaire oligarch and being his cheerleader, haha, I can put you on blast and you'll get destroyed online. This is amazing. I love this. And then he tried to publish the Substack. And it turns out Twitter and Elon Musk, he's very petty. He doesn't want people to publish or profit off their Substacks. So what he was effectively doing was basically, ghosting people's links. And he's been doing that for a while, not just for Substack. Sorry, I got a Taibbi stuck in my throat. Not just for Substacks, but for all links. Elon Musk doesn't want people posting links to outside sources. He wants you to spend as much time as you can on Twitter. He wants you to spend, basically from the moment you log on to the moment you log off, just basically feeding his Grok generative AI machine with more text. So he doesn't want you basically sending people off to other websites. Matt Taibbi got really mad about this. He DM'd Elon Musk and was like, hey, my lord, what's going on? Please, my liege, allegedly, I will inhale every one of your toenails if you simply allegedly allow me to get more promotion on my Substack. Come on, I wasn't paid for the Twitter files. You got to give me something. And then Elon Musk was like, you're dead to me, and then just cast him aside. Like he had been done playing with Matt Taibbi. So in the end, Matt Taibbi effectively sold out everything for very little to nothing. And it's funny. And that's basically been his story. And that's what everyone thought would be his story until Owen Higgins wrote a book about like him, the Twitter files, everyone who'd been, basically doing that kind of stuff for Elon Musk in the past. And Matt Taibbi did not like this book, did not like the title of this book, and is now suing Owen Higgins for the things that he has done. So that's where we get this absolutely jaw-dropping headline that you see before you. To protect free speech, I'm suing the man who defamed me. And I love this. I don't know if this is also a picture of Matt Taibbi's own hand. That would be beautiful if it was. Like, that would be a piece of art. If this is Matt Taibbi's hand where he's drawing himself being censored with barbed wire, perfect, no notes. But this is also Barry Weiss's The Free Press. You might know Barry Weiss now as basically the person running CBS News and CBS in general. So CBS, during their merger, buys The Free Press for an outrageous sum, I think an estimated $150 million. And that's what puts Barry Weiss in charge of CBS programming. And she effectively turns it into a pro-Israel Fox News kind of a TV station. And that's what CBS is now. Unfortunately, it really sucks. And I'm guessing Matt Taibbi, in his, pursuit of suing Owen Higgins, got really upset when Owen Higgins went public and said, by the way, just so everyone knows, Mr. Free Speech, Matt Taibbi, is suing me, apparently. And yeah, that's what he's about. And a lot of people came out and were like, Matt Taibbi, you're an absolute charlatan. What a fraud. You don't give two fucks about free speech. This is such a joke. So I'm sure Matt Taibbi was like, oh, Jesus Christ, who do I reach out to? He can't reach out to Elon. Elon's not going to answer his calls anymore. Again, you're dead to me. Then does the whole like, okay, well, who else do I know? Oh, goddamn, yeah, Barry Weiss, CBS. Oh, fuck, I can get on TV. I can get ready. I can polish my dome and get in the newsroom and really give them a piece of my mind as I talk about protecting free speech by suing my detractors. And it turns out, I guess he wasn't special enough for CBS prime time. She did not want to put him on the CBS station. I mean, this is just my speculation. I have no idea. This is, again, allegedly. Don't sue me, Matt Taibbi. I'm just trying to have some speech. But it does really seem like Barry Weiss was like, nah. You could be in the online publication if you want, though. And he's like, oh, okay, so you'll do a piece on me, a story? Nah. You can write your own, though. Do you want to self-publish the story about how you're fighting for freedom by Matt Taibbi? Here we go. And that's what you see before you. Because I just love this. He's got his own name in the headline by Matt Taibbi. This has got to be some of the biggest and immortalized, by the way, loser behavior I've ever seen in my life. Matt Taibbi, to protect free speech, I'm suing the man who defamed me. By Matt Taibbi. Picture of Matt Taibbi. There is a difference between censorship, which prevents speech, and seeking restitution for a harmful lie already in print. Tech writer Owen Higgins and Hatchet Book Group in February published Owned, How Tech Billionaires and the Right Bought the Loudest Voices on the Left. So remember, that's the title, okay? This was the title he went with for his novel, and in there's already some pretty inflammatory things. If I was in the novel and I saw this headline, maybe I'd be like, wait, I'm not literally owned by Elon Musk. That's technically defamation. He doesn't own me. I'm not the form of his property. I, in fact, I'll have you know, didn't even get paid for the Twitter files. I made no monies whatsoever. I did it for the cloud, baby. So you got nothing. So shame on you for saying that I am owned. They never owned me. They never bought me. I was never for sale. No, I was in it for the clout, for the game. The cover depicts a hand with marionette strings, suggesting that the main subject of the book, fellow reporter Glenn Greenwald and myself, are puppets controlled by big tech overlords such as Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and David Sachs. Higgins' case against me concerns my involvement with the Twitter files, a trove of the social media website's internal communications that Musk sent to reporters, including me, after he acquired the company in 2022. I took a significant heat for my coverage. Look, okay, it was a battle, a hard-fought one, and I was not left without scars. I'll just have you know. Which included Twitter employees' deliberations about whether to suppress the report about Hunter Biden's laptop during the 2020 election. IRS agents made an unannounced visit to my home the day I testified in Congress about my findings, and Delegate Stacey Plaskett falsely accused me of perjury and threatened to jail me. Now, cool story, bro, but again, I don't see what this has to do with Owen, because the things that happened to you, I grant you, they do make it seem as if this was very serious. You know, you were a whistleblower. I suppose you feel you are at the highest levels. Allegedly, please don't sue me. Despite this, Higgins says I sold out, literally, by working on the Twitter files. He claims that, oh shit, I put on more disclaimers. I'm just realizing I could be sued. Just so you know, this entire legal document has to be displayed first. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, this is all legal. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. There's a disclaimer now. This one's not as legally binding, but just so you know, it is real. Just okay. So we got that out of the way. Despite this, Higgins says I sold out literally by working on the Twitter files. He claims that I fully dispensed with any pretense of challenging power after having cashed in with my benefactor, Musk. I've never taken money from Musk or any other tech billionaires on the right, Higgins implies. And this lie isn't harmless. The impressions of trading content for cash or, quote, selling genes, as the Russians call it, is extremely damaging to a reporter's reputation. So I sued Higgins and Bold Type Books, a division of Hatchet, in November for defamation. I kept the lawsuit largely between us, but Higgins went public recently with a post on a Substack complaining, yes, I'm being sued by Matt Taibbi. How dare he talk about this? The post sent off a wave of jeers from the online left-wing peanut gallery, who counts themselves amongst the left-wing peanuts who said a thing or two and had some laughs. I certainly did. Guess what? I don't like a lot of the things that other people have said about me at certain points in my career. I've certainly been like, fuck, I wish they hadn't said that. That includes Glenn Greenwald himself, who actually backed out of a debate we were supposed to have, but has said very mean things about me, and things that I think are not true, and things that I perhaps might even consider actionable. I'm not gonna fucking sue them. Are you serious? Fucking baby. Goddamn coward. What? You can't put in your book that I was bought by the billionaires because, as the record will show, I literally have never received a cent. Oh, sorry, it wouldn't sound like that. It would sound more like, you can't boast that I actually, in fact, have been bought because I received no money from Elon Musk. And it's like, yep, yeah, right. I wonder how this is going to go. Let's get Owen's take on it. As you probably know now, pundit Matt Taibbi is suing me for defamation over my book, Owned, How Tech Billionaires on the Right Bought the Loudest Voices on the Left. I don't want to comment on the substance of the suit. Too much for obvious reasons. You can read the complaint here. I stand by my work. If you're interested in supporting me at this moment, please consider a paid subscription to my newsletter and buy the book. For more on Matt, you can listen to last month's episode of Posting Through It on his career and trajectory. I had a blast joining Jared and Mike to go over exactly what happened to the guy. Stay tuned, more to come. Thank you for your support and keep an eye on that inbox. Fair enough. Maybe I will read the complaint. I am a amateur lawyer after all. And it is public information, right? I'm not putting anything out there that isn't already available. This is an action for defamation arising on the February 4th, 25th publication, Owned, How Tech Billionaires, authored by defendant Owen Higgins. The book falsely portrays Matthew Taibbi, an award-winning journalist, as having cashed in with Elon Musk, sold out his professional ethics, and concealed stories for partisan gain. The book's cover illustration depicts a puppeteer string, suggesting the loudest voices on the left, primarily plaintiff, and fellow award-winning journalist Glenn Greenwald, are puppets to billionaires. How is this a real lawsuit? Has it been thrown out yet? How dare they? Wait, Glenn's not even in here. Well. These allegations, amongst those littered throughout the Owned, are provably false and defamatory because they accuse plaintiff of dishonesty, corruption, and unethical conduct in his chosen profession. They said that defendants acted with actual malice. Inter alia, Higgins admitted in a contemporaneous interview with subtle premise that wealthy tech billionaires bought the plaintiff and others was unsupported. If people are expecting that they're going to be a little disappointed because they can't really track decisions like this, 100% to one thing alone. Oh my God, he's already messing up his own claims. When pressed by other journalists to substantiate his claims, Higgins was completely unable to provide basic foundations for his allegations to a level that satisfied his peers. Well, that's actionable. Plaintiff Matt Taibbi is a journalist, author, and resident. Wait, that's that's the totality of it? Okay, there's some more. Plaintiff's income did not explode during the Twitter Files project as alleged. To the contrary, during the 2 months of peak interest in the project, plaintiff lost money for the first time in his career as an independent journalist while he published his work for free on Twitter. Subsequently, after Musk restricted Substack's links for reasons that are related to this matter, plaintiff's subscription growth slowed even more, leading to a net financial loss. The book's title and title, Owned, How Tech Billionaires on the Right Bought the Loudest Voices on the Left, stated that they were owned and bought by billionaires. See? This is the problem. It's literal. You are saying that he was literally bought and then owned as a human, as a form of property, when he was not. He was not literally bought. Lawsuit. Sue. Silence. How dare you do that? Throughout the book, Higgins repeats the false claim, including claims that Taibbi cashed in with Musk, received a windfall of concealed stories, and acted unethically. Higgins falsely claims that the plaintiff fully dispensed with any pretense of challenging power in 2022, a year in which he was actually investigated, wrote and published damaging stories about the FBI, the CIA, and the Department of Homeland Security. Later, plaintiff was visited by the IRS during a congressional testimony about these reports. In many appearances about Owned, Higgins on occasion had to defend the central thesis of his corruption. When podcaster Andrew Keene said on February 7, 2025, "You are alleging there's a deal," and asked Higgins to explain it, Higgins said it was not a deal, but an implicit understanding in which the source wouldn't have to tell the reporter, "Hey, we need you to spin it this way," because they would just know, as in you do this and you get a benefit. This, I mean, again, I'm not a lawyer. I can't offer anyone any actual legal expertise. Consult a lawyer if you need legal information. I feel this is the definition of a frivolous lawsuit based on feelings, and you're hurt and you're really upset. And honestly, why would you do this? It's going to bring so much more attention to Owen Higgins, his book, you know, the basic hypocrisy of you pretending to be some kind of free speech champion, and then all of a sudden it's like, I don't like the way I was portrayed. They said I was bought and sold in the book by the billionaires. I was never owned by Elon Musk. I was not a form of his property. I can prove that in court. Higgins claims the plaintiff ignored the story that the Trump administration routinely demanded material be taken down by Twitter. Plaintiff, in fact, broke that story in the first Twitter Files report. Ooh, that one's going to hurt you. I read the report. Ultimately, you do point towards an example of, you know, there are other cases in which there were asks, you know, for files to be removed by the other side, but you failed to report that they were in power at the time. The entire thesis and the real fear of the Twitter Files, especially amongst the right, was this idea that the government was collaborating directly with tech companies to censor the speech of the right exclusively. And it turned out that was not true. The Twitter Files, in fact, ended up proving that. It turns out that there were requests being done by both people in power and in the government at the time, Donald Trump and the GOP, that were honored by Twitter, but Twitter still chose to make a decision about whether or not it would do that. And there were requests being made by members of the DNC or organizations related to the Democratic Party to take down Twitter Files, and they also said yes. And so this was basically them getting requests by people you could argue have power in society, and them saying, yes, we will actually agree to these and take down based on your requests. That's what they proved. And I'm not even saying that that doesn't warrant a story in and of itself. It's just still so laughable that Matt Taibbi is still clinging to this idea that he was impartial and that he actually broke a really important story, when what it was showing was that he was trying to really paint a narrative that there was a collusion between the Democrats, Joe Biden, censorship, the vilification of the right wing were being censored. All of this was happening. It was an actual fucking cutting room floor. You know, we're through the looking glass. Thank God that Elon Musk took over and he's made everything transparent and he's given us the Twitter Files for me to reveal to the world, and then taking it all the way to a fucking lawsuit this far. I genuinely hope that Owen sues him in response, right? Opinions can't be disproven. It's Owen's opinion. That's the other part. Like, if you write a book and you're like, hey, by the way, everybody, I really feel that Donald Trump is a tyrant and a fascist, and I'm going to put forward an argument to make that conclusive. Now, it doesn't matter if Donald Trump likes it or not. He doesn't really have a right to sue you for you trying to put an opinion piece together and then trying to give a credibility to your argument for whether or not it be true. This is like, hey, this is my assessment of what took place. This is my read. Here's my story. This is my opinion on what took place. But if you don't like it, I guess sue. Matt is getting even madder now because lots of people, including, current affairs, have been calling him out, saying that he's a massive hypocrite, believes in nothing, sold his soul for nothing, which is even more embarrassing at the end of the day. But now he's saying, I spent much of my career around liberal activists, generally in a simpatico relationship, but I didn't hear things like this Weaver idea of home ownership as a white supremacist project until recently. I don't think these people realize how crazy they are. Yeah, you lefties. What have you been trying to say? All things are apparently part of some white supremacist hierarchy and structure. All things are racist, that white people are born racist. They have racist babies, that time is racist. What now? Home ownership is racist? Is that an idea you're trying to put out there? You weird lefties. I spent a decade working in progressive politics, says Brianna Wu. They all talk like this behind the scenes. Eventually, I came to the conclusion they were morally unfit to hold any power whatsoever. Yeah, I'm assuming this is Mamdani talking about collectivism. Zora Mamdani is director at the mayor's office to protest tenants will transition from treating property as an individual good to as a collective good. Whites especially will be impacted. I'm sorry, what's the problem? Oh, wait, I get it. This is part of a broader blame white people for everything. That's why the left are absolute lunatics and they make no sense and you shouldn't trust them. As a straw person? Well, yeah, by definition. Again, you got to battle invisible enemies when your real ones are your critics. But it's kind of funny, too, because Ryan Grimm clapped back at this, being like, he responds to his post and he seems is a little strange. Ryan, I'm actually surprised to hear this from Taibbi. His work on the financial crisis dug very deeply into the role that subprime lending that was very racially targeted towards black homeowners can have.
Get your take on this post from Matt Taibbi. And this is already very controversial on the left. Everyone's already kind of jiving Taibbi on the left for making this point. But he said, I spent much of my career around liberal activists, generally in a simpatico relationship, but didn't hear things like this Weaver idea of homeownership as a white supremacist project until recently. I don't think these people realize how crazy they are. Taibbi.
By the way, he knows better, even though Ryan is going to give him respect, right? By Ryan being like, it's the most respectful way you could respond. It's the definition of in good faith, right? Like, I'm confused as to why he would say something like this, because his prior work shows that he's actually very, very aware of how racist a lot of these systems were throughout history. In fact, he's done deep dives into this. He should know better. It's weird that he would do that. Where the truth is, he knows that. This is all part of joining, the outrage factory, right? Like to keep people perpetually mad about things that aren't real, to keep people perpetually upset about problems that don't actually concern their everyday lives. Was there any reason for the right to lose their shit over, again, a trans influencer doing one branded post on social media about Bud Light? Should that have lasted years? Should that have resulted in personal property destruction, people losing their minds, people taking up guns and shooting cans? What was all that about? Did it actually improve anyone's quality of life? Did a single right-winger suddenly, I don't know, get their wives back, get a promotion at their job, get health care, get better education for their kids as a result of any of that? No, it's distractions. It's consistent distractions. And if you actually know how things like, the subprime mortgage crisis or redlining or the history of Jim Crow laws or any of this kind of stuff has worked throughout history and what institutional racism actually is, you would understand that it's a completely disingenuous framing to say it this way. To be like, oh, what, now homes apparently are white supremacists? Ugh. Yeah, this is why no one takes you lefties seriously. Because what, are you going to now tell black people they can't buy homes because that's part of the white supremacist hierarchy and structure? But when you say that like that, and you read a tweet like this, well, yeah, I mean, this is going to get 7,000, 8,000 likes. People are going to see this and like, oh my God, the left have lost their minds. The lefties, because they're all like socialists, communists, and anarchists, they think that if you own a home, apparently you're a white supremacist. By definition, it makes you a white supremacist.
Also went on to argue, actually, that what led to the Great Recession in 2008 was kind of proof positive that this is a new element. And I have to say, Ryan, I mean, you wrote, I reference it all the time, but you wrote this great story back in, 2020, 2021, called The Elephant in the Zoom. And it's obvious to everybody that there was a migration of kind of faculty lounge politics really quickly. I mean, it just became more, the language became more normalized really quickly. The pipeline got really short for some reason between like 2014 and 2020. Socialists think about
crisis dug very deeply into the role that subprime lending, that was very racially targeted at black homeowners, played in producing the subprime mortgage-backed securities that then blew up, and actually were sold off into then like teachers unions and these like private equity, these investment banks would sell them to places that, anyway, that's a separate issue.
Yeah.
And housing, like, so clearly, like, the thing Taibbi made his bones about, like, there was a huge racial element to the 2008 financial crisis in such a way that the U.S., like, we blew ourselves up over our own racialized housing policies. And to go back even further, like, it's like one of the, like, top three, like, indisputable examples of the connection in the U.S. in the 20th century between race and class, where coming
systemic,
out of
literal systemic
racism, like in two fundamental, major ways. GI Bill, basically only being allowed to be used by white people coming out of World War II, and the GI Bill and the suburbanization of America creates the American middle class, and then you layer on top of that redlining, which meant that black people couldn't get loans to live in the neighborhoods that were producing the middle class. And so then by the like 1970s, 80s, you have this massive kind of wealth divide that wouldn't have existed were it not for the racist, like actually racist policies embedded in the housing policy. If your entire society's wealth production for the middle class is organized around housing, and you have actual racist policies around housing, like, you're going to accumulate more white home ownership than black home ownership.
And by the way, like, Ryan Grimm is not one of the people who concentrates very heavily on, like, policing people's language, or these are the proper terms you should be able to use. And I want to make sure that, I am censoring the way you speak or anything like that. Like, the man is he's a very kind of brass tacks journalist. I care about the facts on the ground kind of guy. And he's basically just saying, in this situation, we have an example of which, like, not only does Matt Taibbi know this, because he wrote extensively about it, but he's very well aware of what exactly, this crisis did in terms of its, racial targeting, its predatory loan behavior, how that disproportionately was targeting people of color, communities of color, and the effects that it had ultimately once the entire crash happened and all those people ended up losing their homes, and if it's disproportionately going to be affecting people who happen to be in poor economic outcomes, which happen to be disproportionately people who have been racialized throughout American history. He knows all this. He knows. They all know, right? Like, it doesn't matter how many times we have the Joe Rogan, Jamie come to Jesus moment for, a Matt Walsh who's sitting there lying through his teeth about the numbers. Oh, they've been giving 10,000 procedures, 20,000 procedures, 50,000 kids have gender affirming care this year, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, look it up. Yeah, it's actually just a couple hundred. Yeah, not even in this year, actually, less than that. But I mean, makes for a great story, right? Sounds way worse when you say it your way. And he's like, oh yeah, Media Matters will have a field day with that. But he doesn't reset or recalibrate. He's not interested in information, facts, knowledge, like, actually living in a material reality that is based on observable metrics. That none of them are. They are concerned primarily with, again, pushing and profiting off these culture wars and these endless battles and this minutia of nonsense. So of course Matt Taibbi has leached right onto that and now is coming out there and saying things like, wow, I used to actually have some respect for the left or some respect for progressives until they started saying lunacy, like apparently owning a home is a white supremacist thing. And no one said that. You're making that up. This, again, is a fake battle to have in the pile of fake battles. Now we're going to have great endless discourse of people being like, can you believe the left thinks that if you own a home, you're a white supremacist by definition? That's how much they've lost their minds, bro. You're not even allowed to even own a home, right? Like, apparently if you own a house, that turns you into a Nazi. That's how much they just blend, because they're all poor and they don't work and they just sit at home and goon and game all day. They have no idea how the world actually works, and so this is what they think, right? And I just push that out. Yes, it's one fake battle after another. Jesus, that's the best way to put it. It's one battle after another. It's one fake battle after another in an endless fucking terrible cycle. And Matt Taibbi sucks. I think that should be the end of it.
Thank you so much to our patrons for making this show possible. We could not fund it without you. And if you want to join, please check out patreon.com/theserfs to unlock bonus episodes, uncensored content, and all the good stuff. Thanks to Anna Loves Riley, Addercap, Bobby Lasers, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hegbard Salim, Multimondi, Omni, Political Papi, Preston Kroll, Quiet One 85, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demmel, Tigwick, and Words Greenwood.